we here. We are live. We are back with the new show in LA. No, this is not about the Lake Show. It's about the new show in LA that unfortunately last year was highly disappointing. I myself, as a media member of the Los Angeles Clippers, looked at what I saw last year, and I can only look back on it with disappointment. Number one, because the hot takes from Hoops and Brews and HNB Media was flying. Clippers this, Clippers that. Kawhi and PG came together to create the ultimate force that we have ever seen. Doc Rivers was on the sideline doing Doc things. Pat Bev was barking at everybody, including the media. Trez was agitated all year. JaMychal Green was agitated all year. Patrick Patterson was tweeting wild shit. Lou Williams was being Lou until it came time to go and get them wings when it came to the bubble. Kawhi was quiet, reserved, supposedly late according to all of the reports. I had to wait for him numerous times after games, numerous with an S, after games for an hour as he got a massage and rehabbed on his calf in order for him to be able to feel better. Paul George missed a ton of games last year. He was injured. He spoke to the media this week about his injury and the team chemistry. Paul George also spoke to the guys from All the Smoke podcast, and I was mad. If you saw the last episode of Hoops and Brews, you understand wholeheartedly how mad I was at PG. It was trash. I didn't like it. I didn't see any accountability. But I will say this. He did try to make up for it this week during his media conference. But today on the new show in LA, we will have Miss Ashley Nicole coming through toward the later half of the show. But today we have a special guest, Mr. Nick Hamilton. He is a local reporter in Los Angeles. He has been reporting for a decade plus. True vet in the game, great guy, great all-around guy. Always been very supportive of myself and Pavi as it pertains to HNB Media. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Nick Hamilton in so that way we can kind of open up this Pandora's box that was the Los Angeles Clippers of the 2019 to 2020 season and talk about them from the 2020 season to the 2021 season and what's going to happen, because there's a lot on the line for the Clippers this year. They let go of a lot of guys. We will see what happens. Nick, welcome to the program. How you doing today?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me, man. That was a hell of an intro, bro. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Nick. Definitely appreciate that. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. First and foremost, let me say this before I continue. Rest in peace to Gangsta Red of the Booyah Tribe, who we found out passed away. Our thoughts and condolences and prayers out to his family and his loved ones and his fans and friends. So just want to shout that out. He was definitely a true pioneer.
I believe his younger brother passed as well today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a rough day. COVID has been
hard, man.
Yes, it has been. COVID has been taking people away, but if you're from the West Coast, you know who those guys are. So, I'm not from the West Coast, and I still know who those guys are. So, pay homage where it's due. Rest in peace to those people and to all of the people out there that are dealing with the after effects of COVID-19. It's crazy. You and I were talking about COVID-19 and media and all that stuff on one of the first episodes of the Perfect Journey podcast that you can check out over at TPJ Films if you search it on YouTube. And we were talking about COVID and kind of what was going to happen. And I think, I don't really think we could, kind of estimate this true kind of damage. I mean, they projected it to be much worse, but it's still been absolutely awful. Even so to the tune where, now, guys that are, used to covering and being in the locker rooms and being able to see these guys will be able to hide a lot of stuff that they weren't able to hide from us last year as the media, because we won't necessarily always be there due to COVID restrictions. So what are your thoughts on the debacle that was the Los Angeles Clippers last year and kind of their, counter moves? And then after that, we can go ahead and we can kind of move on and talk a little bit about Doc. Go ahead.
I was definitely a little surprised because the way that the Clippers were structured, the way that they were constructed, you thought that they had a great chance going up against the Los Angeles Lakers, which we finally thought we were going to get a Western Conference All LA Finals, something I had been preaching, something I'm sure you had been preaching, TP. Pavi, everybody else, because that's what we saw. I mean, based upon the type of team that was constructed with Kawhi and PG, and those guys, and with what we saw the previous year going up against at that time, the world champion Golden State Warriors and actually snatching 2 games out of that series, coming back down from 31 in one of those games. You thought, okay, all they need was PG, Kawhi, kind of maybe added a couple of pieces here and there on the side for the bench. You saw the Reggie Jacksons, you saw the Marcus Morris is being added. So you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. All right, this may be a formidable team.
Yeah, but they still didn't add a point guard though, which they still have not added one. So, I mean, Tyronn Lue and those guys have talked about getting more playmaking on the perimeter, and they feel they have that with Luke Kennard. But I mean, still, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you spoke something that I was about to say. So, what I was also going to add to that was the fact of not only did they not add a point guard, a true point guard, they don't still have a voice in the locker room. Something I even asked Serge Ibaka, which I'm sure you'll get into later on in the show. I asked him about his voice because we all know everywhere that Serge has gone, he's had a very strong voice and he's been able to galvanize, players, and players have been able to listen to him, especially over his tenure in the NBA. So I thought that was very important. So we'll see what happens with that. But they still haven't filled that void, which is, to me, something that is most important than just a point guard being on the floor at all times.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go ahead and let's actually open this up, and then we'll bring in Ashley after this topic. But because you and I were there, Pavi and I have had very strong feelings and opposite reactions in regards to Doc Rivers firing and what happened with that. I personally don't feel that all of the accountability should fall upon him. I do believe guys checked out on him once they went down to Orlando. I do believe that guys still had respect for him during the year. I just think once they got to Orlando and they were in their private environment, I just think they really were just like, yeah, we just not rocking with this dude no more. And I also think that there were factions within the locker room that needed to be broken up in order for this team to be able to achieve their true potential. So what are your thoughts on Doc Rivers? Was he to blame for the failure that we saw last year?
I think he definitely shares the responsibility of blame. I mean, when you're the head coach, you are the leader.
He definitely shares a responsibility. I'm not absolving him of responsibility.
Absolutely. No, I think
I'm not absolving him. I just don't put it all on him. Go ahead.
No, I don't put it 100% on Doc Rivers, but I do put a good portion of it on him because he is in a position of headship, which means he's in leadership. So he calls the shots. And as we heard from a lot of the players, especially PG, we heard that, on the All the Smoke podcast, hey, man, this guy keeps playing me out of position. I'm having conversations with him. He keeps playing me out of position. And even when I asked him yesterday about where he likes the ball, has he talking to Ty Lue, because obviously his new regime, and he said, yeah, I spoke with Ty Lue. I had conversations with Ty Lue. I like ISOs. I like pick and rolls. And we didn't see a lot of that even in the playoff bubble, because we knew that PG, and I'm sure like you and Pavi, where I was kind of screaming at the TV a couple of times, like, dude, you're playing him out of position. I'm not absolving PG of any responsibility.
He doesn't want to play the 4. That's the only issue that I have. He's a guy that has historically made it known that he does not want to play the 4. If you don't want to play the 4 position, I have to put you at the shooting guard position. You're not better than Kawhi Leonard. And I'm not putting Kawhi at the 4. Kawhi is not a 4. Kawhi is a solid 3. He's tall. He's big. He has a big body. Paul George is a real solid 6'9", 6'10" with shoes on. He's a guy that should be down there on that low block. That lineup should have really been him at the 4 and Trez at the 5, rather than having Patrick Patterson out there or Marcus Morris out there. I'm fine with Marcus Morris and them trying to run that lineup occasionally, but I felt he would have been better served coming in with Lue and Trez and being able to just shoot in that lineup and have Paul George play the 4 and Landry play the 2. So that's how I felt about it. Go ahead.
And I think you made a great point earlier when you alluded to the fact of, guys respected Doc during the season, but when they got to the bubble, I don't know if it was so much respect as it was being able to be tolerant. I think sometimes you can tolerate somebody, it can appear to be respect, but it doesn't necessarily equate to that. So I think when they tolerated Doc, when they got to the bubble, it was like, oh my God, they were just overwhelmed with all the restrictions that they had to be succumb to in order to finish playing out the season. And I think that was a wear and tear on a lot of their nerves and their stress points. And I think that Doc turned a deaf ear to them as well. Not only did they tune Doc out, but I think Doc kind of tuned them out, because
he did. Once he called, you hear the guys having conversations.
You can't do that.
Literally, I asked him about that. I was the last media member, I believe, to talk to him as a Los Angeles Clippers coach. And I said, do you think that their mentality was weak, and that, like, as you kind of alluded to early in the first round, that this was an emotionally weak team? And he said, no, we just got beat. They played harder. They played better. Jokic, he said, was killing them and was a monster, not only scoring but also on the rebounding end. And Paul George and Kawhi Leonard played subpar. So I'm 50-50 on it, but I do feel as though the players have taken the easy road out, including Paul George. And I'm actually going to go ahead and we're going to switch topics. And after I play this Paul George clip, we'll bring in Ashley Nicole to talk about what PG had to say in regards to Doc Rivers. As we all know, he had some fiery comments about Doc Rivers on the All the Smoke podcast. Let's go ahead and let's actually hear from Paul George, and then let's bring in Ashley Nicole.
I mean, I think that's where everybody got it misconstrued. We all take responsibility into that. Fact of the matter is, me being one of the top players on the team, I wasn't at a peak performance. I wasn't playing well enough. The fact that I gave up a 3-1 series being on that floor sits with me and haunts me. And not to go back and forth and I want to clear things up. I respect Doc. I think Doc is a hell of a motivator, hell of a coach. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that we did, but that does not belittle the fact that I respect him and I respected him in that position. You heard it from me. You heard it from Mook. We felt we were the better team. They played harder than us, and they ultimately got past us. I said what I said, but I do want to clear it up because the notion out there is that, I don't respect Doc and I'm putting the blame on Doc, which is not the case. I am to blame in that situation just as much as anybody else. So, let's clear that up and let's not get that out of hand and make that a story that's not a story.
Paul, stop lying to us, bro. You made that into a story. Don't act as if we made you say that to All the Smoke. Like, we all know that y'all love Stack 5 and y'all love Matt Barnes and y'all want to talk to them and develop that rapport, and they cool because they doing it and they are players that are doing it on a larger stage. But let's not act like Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson put those words in your mouth. You could have just not said anything. My high school teacher, Mr. Kolar, God rest his soul, he used to always say to us in high school, the best substitute for brains is silence. And if you don't have anything smart to say, sometimes you can just shut up. And that's exactly what he could have did. But so don't turn this outward to us, Paul. You said that. And although you might mean it, players are the main ones that love to say, keep it in the locker room until they don't want it to be in the locker room no more. Miss Ashley Nicole, welcome. How do you feel about those comments?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both of what you're saying, and I also agree with him. I think sometimes when you're in certain environments, especially as someone who's interviewed players and does it for a living, I think they are more prone to kind of be more laid back when it comes to giving interviews to certain people. And from that, you get different contexts, you get different results, you get different remarks than you would if you were in a different atmosphere. I think when you sit down with former players, you have that camaraderie, you have that brotherhood where you feel you can kind of let your guard down and maybe speak a little bit more candid than you would if, say, you were speaking to the press after a game or during media week. So I don't think necessarily it wasn't how he felt. I think he doesn't want that to be the main storyline. I think, that is a big portion of how he was feeling, which is why he said it. I don't think he said it and did not mean it. I do think it started a domino effect, if you will, a snowball effect that he maybe did not anticipate. But here's the thing. You can't, as a player, you do somewhat blame yourself, but you also look at it, from a coaching standpoint. Like, your job is to coach me so I can be great, so I can help this team be great. And he felt that was not the case. And I'm not saying he's wrong, and he's not saying that wasn't an honest answer. He's just saying he does not want that to be the storyline. So I think it's both. I don't think he's disowning the fact that that's how he felt. I just think that he does not want that to be the main headline, in which it has been, and that is that he does not respect Doc Rivers. That is not the case. He's making that clear. There was a disagreement. He was not happy with his performance in the playoffs, and he was not happy with Doc's coaching in the playoffs. So it's 50-50. It's a little bit of both.
Look, this is the new show in LA, so I'm not gonna turn this into hoops and brews. We like cut each other off because I'm this is a different environment. But I respect your opinion on that. But I was there. You have to take some accountability for yourself, first and foremost, which he can say all he wants to about respect. I don't care about respect. And if you respect me, show me that you respect me. Don't do it through lip service. Don't smile in my face and then slap me in the back of my neck when I turn around. If you respect me, then just say, hey, we had our disagreements. We had we didn't necessarily agree on the same playing style, but I respect Doc and I think that he did a great job and I wish him well. You could have said that and that would have created no headlines. So this notion that he was too relaxed, all this, come on, man. Like, come on. You know what? He knew what he was doing. He just didn't think that the internet was going to turn up on him like that because, as the players said in that athletic story, no one respects what he has done in the postseason, including the very people that were on his same team. So once those comments came out, everybody said, hold on, big fella. You was the one that was 2 of 14. I said it on Hoops and Brews. You missed them shots. You missed them shots. You clanked off the backboard. You were getting cooked by Luka Doncic. You were getting cooked by Jamal Murray. You were getting out rebounded by Jeremy Grant every game. You were getting out hustled by Michael Porter Jr. every game. You were getting outscored by Michael Porter Jr. in some games. That was you. You can talk about pin downs all you want to. You are a guy that has historically said, I don't want to play the 4. So what do you want Doc to do if your big 6'9" foot ass don't want to get on the block? He keeps saying, oh, I wanted more mid-range post-ups. How you gonna get mid-range post-ups playing the 2 with Kawhi Leonard on the same goddamn floor when he operates in the mid-range? Big fella, did you think about the team you wanted to join before you decided to join it? I don't think he did. And even this year, all we gonna see is literally just way more ISO. And then everybody gonna be like, well, why the offense sticking? Because they just gonna run way more ISO. Yeah, he trying to get you to move around screens because you weren't doing nothing else when you got the ball. Like, you can say whatever you want to about Steph Curry, but on the nights when he feels that the three-point shot is not there, he will pump fake, he will hesitate, and he will drive his little skinny ass to the basket and attempt to lay it up. I never even saw Paul George make, like, even if he got 4 charges or the whole series would be like, man, this man PG wild. And every time he get the ball, he's supposed to be shooting threes. He running to the lane getting charges. I would be like, you know what, PG, I feel you. You wouldn't even get no charges, so you're not even creating contact. What are you upset about? If you are really that big time, which I spent arguing and I took back because I really took that back because some about that, I'm sorry. I don't care what nobody say. I ain't never been an athlete, but in every other aspect of my life, I compete. And I will never pass the buck on my teammate when I know that I did not do what I was supposed to do, regardless of if I felt like management didn't uphold their end, because I still share in responsibility in my failures as equally as my peers. And I felt like he just pawned it off on Doc. He didn't take any accountability for, the reports are coming out about him being late and Kawhi being late. I don't hear you talking about y'all not being at practice on time or y'all not being able to play or y'all being late scratches for games and not showing the effort. So I have no issue with him complaining about Doc. But as all these guys love to say, well, we need to keep things out the media. And then they never keep things out the media. They're like, well, I didn't want to make it a story. You didn't have to say anything. You didn't. You're not Nick Hamilton, Ashley Nicole, and TPJ. You don't get paid to talk about yourself. You get paid to play and develop relationships with the people that work with you. And how does that make him look stronger? Like, that's the thing. Like, it's like, PG, how do those comments make you look good? They don't. Go ahead, Nick.
I mean, I think it was a couple of points in there. Number one,
go ahead.
When Ashley said about him, which is true, I think players, when they're around other players, it's sort of an alumni type of situation where they feel like, okay, I can talk, I can speak a little freer than I could with any three of us that are on this panel right now. And I think that comes to a certain point of being comfortable. And I say that because I think Paul George was continuing to find his level of comfort when it came to the Los Angeles Clippers. But when you're in Los Angeles, you can't be deciding if you're comfortable or not. You have to either be it or just deal with it and continue to press forward. This is LA. It's the number 2 media market. LA doesn't play. And thank God you're not a part of the Knicks or the Brooklyn Nets, because the New York media would tear you to shreds because of that. And Ashley could probably attest for that, her being from New York. I just hear about it, but I know, you probably know a little bit more than I do, but just based upon that. So you have to look at Paul George in this way. Yes, Paul George pushed the blame off on Doc Rivers, but during his press conference, I will say he did take some form of accountability, a lot more than he did on all the smoke, which I can appreciate, just for the simple fact, because we all make mistakes. Maybe he misspoke. Maybe he realized, you know what, I should have said it the way that I said it. So here's my opportunity to try to, regain some trust in my teammates. Maybe I can regain some level of accountability when it comes to dealing with Doc Rivers in the way that I didn't agree with him, which is why he specifically said, hey, look, I didn't agree all the time with what our rotations were, what our plays were, what have you. And I can respect him for that. But at the same time, let's not only I think so much blame is being put on Paul George because of his comments on all the smoke, but things are being overlooked by Kawhi Leonard, who is supposed to be the leader, who is supposed to be the floor general, quote unquote, if we're going to talk about a floor leader. And I believe that there's a lot of blame being taken off of Kawhi Leonard because he is Kawhi Leonard, because he's won 2 championships with 2 different teams, because he's probably the best wing defender of our generation. Those things are being swept up, being swept under the rug. And I think it should be a 50-50 thing, if any, because these 2 characters were the ones that wanted to come to Los Angeles. Kawhi Leonard had the Clippers in a chokehold. He damn near was about to suplex them and go across the hall to the Lakers if he didn't get his way. He told them, look, if you don't get me Paul George somehow, some way, come hell or high water, I'm walking across the hall with LeBron and AD. That's where I'm going to go. And the Clippers, so to me, the blame shouldn't be looked at Paul George as heavily as it should be looked at Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard strong-armed the Clippers to a point he damn near almost promised them a championship, in so many words, if they got Paul George on deck with him. And they came up shorter than a midget at a urinal. So what I'm saying is there's no excuse. There's no excuse whatsoever to put all this on Paul George. There's no excuse.
I am yelling.
I just had the craziest.
Let's go ahead, Ashley. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Give us your final thoughts on this Paul George thing, and then we're going to move on and talk Kawhi, because I have Kawhi's words from himself about team chemistry, and then I want to break that down and talk about that a little bit. But Ashley, go ahead.
I think obviously there is a lot of blame to go around. It's not just a one-sided situation with the Clippers. And obviously, had they gone to the conference finals, even if they had lost, if they had gone to the conference finals and this was a situation, the story would obviously be different. The narrative would be different. But because they did not perform the way I and many other people had predicted and had anticipated, the story is now, well, what's wrong with Paul George? What's wrong with the Clippers? Whose fault is it? And the truth of the matter is, it's just the team did not have the adequate time to develop chemistry like other teams did. Let's be honest. Not a lot of them got a chance to play together until they were in that bubble. That bubble took a strain on a lot of people's mental health. It made a lot of teams perform differently than they would have performed had it been a regular playoff environment. There were a lot of narratives. There were a lot of different things within the equation that made that situation not go the way it was supposed to. Now, did the comments on the podcast help? No. Were they authentic? Were they his true feelings? Absolutely. Did he maybe take a step back? And once that report came out from the Atlantic, where it's now pointing fingers and now it's like, oh, they have special treatment.
Not to interrupt you, but did he go too? Do you? I'm not trying to be combative and argue.
No, yeah, of course.
I agree with everything everyone is saying. I don't believe he is the villain. So I'm not going to act as if I disagree with you. But my question to you is, do you feel as though he went a little bit too far in being as loquacious with his comments as he was?
I mean, I do think he went too far, but at the end of the day, it's his truth. And who am I or you or anybody else to tell somebody how to say their truth? Touché. I do think, given the situation of the Clippers, given, the blockbuster move of Trez going to the Lakers and all Doc Rivers leaving, being fired and all that, it probably wasn't the best time to pile on to a situation that already was piled up. But this is where we are. And I think the report that came out from the Atlantic did not help the situation, because you're now on a podcast complaining about the coach not doing his job allegedly. And now the report comes out where it shows that you and Kawhi both had special treatment. And if you're going to get special treatment, then you need to perform when it counts, because you can't get special treatment just because you're a superstar and not put up superstar numbers when it counts. So it's just a lot of going on within the Clippers. I do think that all of it, the Atlantic report, Paul George's comments on the podcast, whatever conversation, the Athletic,
not the Atlantic.
Oh, I'm sorry,
the
Athletic.
It was the Athletic, not the Atlantic, because they're two complete different publications. If the Atlantic wrote an article about Paul George, I will be worried. I'm like, gee, what did you do, PG? Because they be writing, you know what I mean? If you ever read the Atlantic, you know what I mean. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. So the Athletic. Sorry about that. Yes, okay. And I just think they need to put it all behind them right now. The Lakers did great in the offseason. They got better, if you will. I think, they're obviously going to be back to defend their title. It's not going to help if the Clippers and the Lakers face each other and they have to watch that championship banner go up, the banner that many people anticipated was going to belong to them when the season restarted. So it's just a lot of garbage that has to be put on the back burner, because they are not in a position where they can have anything affect their chemistry, affect their training camp, their mini camp, whatever you want to call it. This is now or never for the Clippers. You have a new coach who I don't think, Ty Lue is of Doc Rivers status. I think he's a good coach. I think he is a people's coach, a player's coach, rather.
We'll talk about that in a second.
But I just think the Clippers got to let all the garbage, just let it go and focus on basketball, because right now it's just a mess from every corner of that organization. It's just a mess. So
let's go ahead. Let's talk about Kawhi Leonard. I want to talk quickly about if we believe Kawhi failed as a leader last season. But before we talk about that, reporter Roz Gold Unwoode talked to him yesterday and asked him specifically about the team chemistry issues and if he felt he had things to improve upon. I will play his response right now.
It's the same thing. With us last year, it was kind of different. Team chemistry builds from day one. You know what I mean? Coming in camp, I was coming, had a procedure done. PG had a procedure done. Some of the other guys were in and out in the training camp, so we didn't play. Well, just me and PG didn't play probably any of the preseason games. I probably played one or two. I'm not sure, but we wasn't in training camp, and I think this year, just us being able to start training camp, able to practice and go full speed with the guys since day one. I think that would just build up to a better, chemistry. So guys are either falling in line in the middle of the season or first game. You know what I mean? We all are here together now.
Anything off the court that you feel like, hey, this is my job as the leader of this team?
I mean, obviously, you just got to make sure, same stuff we did last year, just try to, go to some team dinners, try to gather with one another, enjoy something together rather than basketball. But, with the COVID and everything going on, it'll be harder this year to do that. But, we could find out ways to play games or, just talk and conversate.
So, I will say this. I agree with him that I don't necessarily believe that he needs to change his leadership style, which he also said to someone. But I do think that a lot of it is probably just about time. He also spoke yesterday about not necessarily having the time that he needed, because he also revealed something yesterday that I did not know, which was that over the summer he had a procedure done on his leg, and that's the reason why he was on the injury management thing, which I had not heard Kawhi Leonard say that. So I'm gonna bring Nick Hamilton back in. Did you hear that from Kawhi during the season, that he had a procedure done over the summer?
No, not at all. I mean, we knew about the leg situation from the San Antonio days, because he decided to do his own management style of how he wanted to keep his body together, but I hadn't heard anything like that.
Yeah, but did you hear that yesterday when he said that? Or
I heard it yesterday.
I
was pretty surprised.
That was the first time I heard him mention that. I was surprised as well. So, Miss Ashley Nicole, you can go ahead. Do you feel Kawhi Leonard failed as a leader last year, or do you think that it was just a matter of just odd circumstances due to just everything that happened in the season?
Again, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that bubble, I've spoken to players who were in the bubble, reporters who were in the bubble, and it was just an environment that those guys were kind of thrust into and really did not anticipate how draining it would be on their mental health. And I think people forget that in order to play well, you have to be in a good space mentally. And it took guys out of their routine. It took guys away from their families. It took guys away from their chefs. They're eating food that they're not accustomed to eating. It took them out of their regular day-to-day.
Well, at least the first couple days.
It took them out of their day-to-day movements. And if you know anything about athletes, they're creatures of habit. They essentially do the same thing every single day. It's just the way they are able to function. So when you put them in an environment when they can't do that, it's hard. But do I think Kawhi has some of the responsibility? Absolutely. If you're if you're given the privileges of load management and being able to come from San Diego, allegedly, and whatever the reports say, and, being able to take private jets and doing this and doing that, whatever it is that treatment, entails, then when it comes to performing, you have to perform. I mean, you are the leader of this team. This is what you were brought here for. You weren't brought here to be average. You weren't brought here to be subpar. You were brought here to lead. And it's the same thing with Paul George. You are the Robin to Batman, and Batman and Robin have to work together, and they have to save the day. If you don't do that, the whole team falls apart. And again, it's not just their responsibility. There's a lot of things, the chemistry of the team was off. They did not get enough time to play together. The bubble situation was just a mess from the standpoint of what it did to guys. And like I said, their routines. But Kawhi holds some of the responsibility. He did not do the job that he was brought there for. And if we're going to point blame, and we're going to give blame to Doc Rivers, and we're going to give blame to Paul George, and listen, that blame is justified. Doc Rivers could have done a better job. Paul George could have done a better job. Then we have to put the blame on the leader, and that leader is Kawhi Leonard, and he could have done a better job. And that's what it
Nick,
is.
how do you feel as someone that was actually in the locker room, as well as myself? I'm actually gonna, everybody kind of knows how I feel about, kind of Kawhi's thing. I've said numerous times, kind of last year, that I believe that the new faction of guys didn't agree with the old regime, but the old regime of guys' voices were just a little bit too loud and too strong and too stern to the guys who existed there before. And therefore, I felt like last year he did fail as a leader, but he only failed because he didn't, and I believe they, as well as the management, underestimated the power at which the faction of Lou Will, Montrez, and Patrick Beverly had in their locker room. And it's not to say that they didn't like their teammates or they were upset with their teammates. It's just they were used to kind of being the guys for about a year. Mm-hmm. They had that run against the Warriors, and now you get Kawhi and PG coming in, especially Kawhi. He's injured. He's not necessarily always showing up when you need to him. I just didn't necessarily feel like he was able to be as strong as they wanted him to be. And I think now that they've put an ally in the locker room, such as Serge, he won't have to be strong because nobody gonna fall out of line with Serge. Who want to get choked up by Serge? I've seen his work. I've seen his work. Nick, how you feel about that, Nick?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think he failed as a leader because he is the leader he has always been. He is led by example. And I think the Clippers, if they thought he was going to galvanize the troops.
Well, Pavi had a
That's
retort.
Not fair, though.
Said,
no.
Wait, hold on one second, Nick. Pavi, and this is not my retort, this is Pavi's retort. So I want your opinion on it because I disagree. Pavi's retort was, well, if you're showing up late to practice or you missing practice because you got special trainers because you got to get all the stuff done with your leg, like, yeah, we should be mad. I'm thinking, if my leg is messed up and this is why this is happening, you as my teammate should have my back. Thoughts on that?
Let me expound upon what I'm saying as far as him being a leader on the floor. When you're a leader there's different ways to lead. We all know this. So he is a leader on the floor. We saw what happened in Toronto. He did the same thing. The only reason why I was successful in Toronto because he had Kyle Lowry, who was more vocal. So it balanced everything out. But when you own the Los Angeles Clippers, no, he didn't fail as a leader as it pertains to the way he likes to lead. Now, I'm in total disagreement with the way he shows up late. You cannot show up late and you are the superstar of the team. That is unacceptable. I don't give a damn what it is. You have to have opportunities to schedule things the way you have a leg issue. And that you don't have to broadcast it to the public like you did yesterday, but you have certain issues and certain ailments that you have to take care of. You've been knowing that ever since you were in San Antonio. So there's no excuse for that part. That part, I give him full blame for that because you're setting a bad example and a bad precedent. I don't blame the guys that's saying, hey, we get here at 12 o'clock. Why does Kawhi get to be here at 1:30 when we have to be here at 12 o'clock? Or it's going to be consequences when it comes to us being late. So I understand that part. But let's also take into account too, Lou Will, Montrez, Pat Bear, they're not stars. So there's a certain different type of treatment that you have with a superstar. We all know this. All superstars get treated differently. We all know this. And so to me, it was some real suckerific activity going on in that locker room, because if you had something to say, you had an issue with one of your teammates, you should have pulled them to the side instead of going through the media. Like TPJ said, oh, well, let's keep everything in house. No, you didn't keep it. You were sending subliminal shots. Montrez was doing it early on in the season. Then you heard, we heard the reports of, Pat Bev and PG getting into it. You heard reports Luke Will was expressing his thoughts. I'm like, man, listen, if you have an issue with a teammate, square it up in the locker room. Yeah. It doesn't need to be disseminated through the media, because then you want to blame us for putting out the damn story. Well, you can't blame us in the media for putting out the damn story when you're the one that orchestrated it in the first place.
I 100% agree with that point. I think that, internal locker room issues, if possible, should be dealt internally, just because when you then allow it to trickle down to the media, it has a multitude of after effects. Obviously, now everyone's looking at you, your competition, like, oh, what's going on in that locker room? They hate each other. You have that aspect. Of course, you have the aspect of the media who's going to run with the story, because that is the job of the media, to take stories from the locker room that are given to them and create stories. And from there, more stories develop. And now there's rumors circulating. It now also affects the trust of the locker room, because everyone's looking around like, who spoke? Who's the one talking? It's a bunch of different things. But I will say that to ignore the fact that when you are a superstar in the NBA, you are given certain treatment, whether or not we agree with it, whether or not it should be the case, that is the case. It was the case with Michael Jordan. It was the case with Kobe Bryant, rest his soul. It's the case of LeBron James. It is just the nature of the beast. When you are a superstar, when you have that credibility, when you have those accolades, when you have that notoriety, you are given certain privileges. But in the words of one of my favorite basketball players of all time, Allen Iverson, we talking about practice, not a game, but practice. Here's the thing. If this was just practice and he was showing up late, but he, in the games was putting up crazy numbers and leading his team to victory, this would not be a conversation. It is a conversation because you're showing up late to practice. You're taking private flights when everyone else has to ride on the team plane or whatever the case may be, and we're losing. Now, if you're doing all that and we're winning, we're winning. Regardless, whatever.
From San Diego.
But
he did also, wait a minute, one second, Ashley. He did also have the same helicopter pilot as Kobe Bryant. So I will say, to be fair to him, after Kobe passed, I could understand him being like, yo, how the fuck am I going to, excuse my language because I try not to curse on the show, but how the fuck am I going to get around now after one of my idols and my good friends just passed away in the very mode of transportation that I'm using to get back and forth? Also, to Kawhi's point, I've heard him mention during the season that he had a place in downtown. So if he was late to practice, that's on him. That's not on anybody else, because I've heard him mention that he had a place in downtown and that he had somewhere that he stayed that was near the stadium. So if you have somewhere that you stand near the stadium, you shouldn't be late. So I understand the star perks. He deserves those. He does.
Yes. The star perks are going to come when you're a star. That is what it is. But if you are going to get star perks, then be a star player when it counts. That's my point. And I don't really care if he's showing up late to practice and the Clippers are winning. I don't really give a damn. And Clippers fans shouldn't care either. Who cares if he's showing up late to practice? Who cares if he gets to sleep in? Who cares if he gets to take one mode of transportation and somebody else's? If you're winning, that should be all that matters to you. It's only a story, and people are only upset by it because they are losing. And when you are losing and getting peripheral treatments, you look crazy, because what am I giving you this treatment for? You're not giving me the star treatment when it counts. You're not giving me the star treatment when we're fighting for our playoff lives. You're not giving me the star treatment then. So why the hell should I give you star treatment during practice? That's the only reason people care. And if he wants to continue down that path of getting star treatment, which, listen, 2 rings, that's justified. But give me that 2-ring Kawhi Leonard when it counts. Give me the 2-ring Kawhi Leonard in a game. Don't just give it to me, when you feel like it. Otherwise, all that other stuff is just not justified. And that's why people are upset.
Can I add to something that she said too?
Nick, last 10 seconds on this topic. Let's wrap this up because I want to move on and talk to the next and go to the next topic. Go ahead.
Well, I want to say really quick that I think also the blame should be Clippers upper management, because I think there should have been a conversation between the current players before Kawhi and PG, or when they were going to go after both of those players, and kind of get assess the room and kind of read the room and say, okay, how are we going to be able to insert these two guys into this current culture? And I think that would have happened, whether it was Doc or the upper management. I think things would have been a little bit smoother. I think things would have been a little bit more open, and maybe you wouldn't have had Trez or Lou or Pat Bev saying the things that they were saying out in the open instead of being closed and being in the privacy of their locker rooms.
So let's go ahead and let's actually move on and let's talk about Serge Ibaka. The Los Angeles Clippers have made some free agent additions. He is the main one. To me personally, he's the biggest piece. As well as Luke Kennard, and I'll talk about him in a quick second.
Who?
But I do Luke Kennard. But I do want to talk.
Is that the guy? Is that the guy that Ty Lue
Pistons? From the
forgot
Pistons.
who he was? Oh, okay.
I don't. Did he forget his name, or did the microphone?
Yes, he did. Yes, Ty.
Hey, bro,
okay,
I swear to God, I was
it's
on that
okay,
media conference.
Ty.
I'm like, did Ty Lue just forget this man's name, or is he talking about the camera? That man like, the camera. I'm like, nah, G.
It's okay, Ty. We forget
this man's
bro.
name. He definitely forgot that man's name. But we'll talk about Luke Kennard in a second. But let's go ahead. I'm gonna play this clip from Serge Ibaka talking about kind of what he felt the Clippers needed, or how he felt about their team from last season.
I mean, I think what happened, what I saw from the far, I mean, a bit expert about, those kind of things. But as a player, what I saw from the far, I felt like they have everything, then just maybe the manner of doing things, they didn't do all the little things right. Sometimes when you have big players, or on paper you are one of the best teams. Sometimes we have a tendency to forget all the little things, the details is very important too. No matter how good you are, So to me, from the far, I felt like it was a lot of little things, details, a really good habit, and then the team didn't have it last year. I'm sure, of course, you learn from it, and hopefully this year, the team is going to learn from last year and try to do things better this year. But paper-wise, last year to me, and what I saw, they are everything.
So, I agree. They did have everything. Well, I disagree a little bit. They didn't have a point guard, and they still don't have a point guard, which is the only thing I disagree with. But as you can see from Serge, he, to me, is going to be a presence that is going to be warming and welcoming. And as well as, like I said before, he is going to make guys fall in line, because he's not going to allow none of that slick talking about his man's Kawhi. All right? Kawhi is not OG Anunoby. So, Ashley, how do you feel about Serge Ibaka? Do you feel that he will be a valued addition to this team? What do you feel that he adds to this team?
Absolutely. I've always been a big fan of Serge Ibaka, and I've said this before. I feel like he is the guy who's willing to do the quote unquote dirty work. He's not afraid to play defense. He's not afraid to rough somebody up if he has to, take a tech if he has to. I mean, he's kind of that Dennis Rodman you need on your team. You need that pit bull who's willing to help you, defend, and willing to help the team win and do whatever it takes. I think also we are undermining the effect that chemistry has. Kawhi trusts Serge. They know each other. They've played together. And chemistry, the lack thereof, has been the biggest issue with the Clippers. I feel like when you look at the root of their problems, I think really it comes down to chemistry and having a familiar face, having a familiar teammate in Kawhi's corner is only beneficial, I think. I think that's the case in all teams. If you look at all nucleus of a team, every star needs that one guy that he trusts without a shadow of a doubt, that he has an immediate chemistry with. And that's Serge. I think also Serge is going to kind of bring that fire to the Clippers that I think they've been missing. You need somebody who's going to fire you up. You need somebody who's not afraid to speak out. You need someone who's outspoken, who's vocal. And I think Serge Ibaka is that guy. I think Kawhi sometimes is too much of, the shy, quiet guy. Like he's not willing to do what, say and sometimes do things that he has to when it comes to being that leader role. I think Paul George is still trying to figure out where he fits in the Clippers organization. Lou is a guy who I think is outspoken, but I also think it maybe is received differently. I think Serge Ibaka is going to be a big piece and helping to turn this Clippers team around. And I hope that with the addition of a coach like Ty Lue, who is a player's coach, if you will, it's going to make the difference. Because if you are given Serge Ibaka, you're given a new coach, and this team still does not perform, then the question is going to remain, can these guys play together? And that's going to be something that you're going to hear about in the media for a very long time if these guys get out there and they just do not look good, if they look worse than they were last season.
Yep. Nick, go ahead. Talk to us. How do you feel about this?
Well, I think I agree with Ashley with most of what she was saying. I think you do need somebody like that in the locker room. I think Kawhi, most importantly, needs somebody like that in the locker room that's familiar with him. They have a chemistry. They have a rapport with one another. My interest is the fact of what is Pat Beverly going to be saying about Kawhi now that Serge is in the locker room. I would love to be a fly on the wall with those conversations because I know they're going to get very, very testy.
I think there's nothing he can say because I think after that debacle last year, management has made it very clear. Any of you guys that aren't falling in line are going to get sent or we'll let you go. Trez essentially during his Lakers, kind of presser or whoever, I saw him talking. He basically said the Clippers didn't even really offer me, give me an offer to come back. So I guess they really didn't want me back. And yes, that's why they didn't want you back because you weren't good for the locker room. So I think a guy like Patrick Beverly better skate on very thin ice before he is wound up somewhere else. Because I do believe that there will be a few trades that will happen randomly during this season for smaller pieces that will help swing the pendulum of the league. And I think he's one of those guys that if he don't fall in line, Serge is going to be on his ass.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you need that because for the longest time, at least, let's not say the longest time, just at least last season, I don't know if you had that. I feel like you had a bunch of egos, a bunch of different personalities. Like I said, Kawhi's the more quiet guy. Paul George is just struggling to find his way. Lue's the likable guy. Everyone seems to like Lue. Trez is, he was happy to be there. He was happy to be sixth man of the year.
He wasn't happy to be there last year. He didn't look that happy last year. He looked like a Rottweiler that somebody had been feeding old bones for about 12 years.
Well, he was he was angry.
And I'm not talking about bubble Trez. I'm not talking about bubble Trez. Bubble Trez does not count to me because as he said, he lost someone that was the equivalent of his mother. So I will never ever diminish the grief or any of how he may have been feeling in the bubble. Everything that I judged Montrezl Harrell on last season was literally before coronavirus. After COVID, he wasn't even a factor because his conditioning wasn't even up to par because of him being at home taking care of his sick, grandmother. So everything that I'm talking about is what I saw when I was actually there, and not stuff that I'm speculating about that happened during the bubble. Go ahead.
Yeah, but to finish the point, then Nick, you go ahead and have it. You need that. You need somebody in the locker room who's going to be the voice. I look back to a report that Jimmy Butler, after I think it was Game 6, when he had that incredible game, he said Udonis Haslem cursed everybody out in that locker room. He wasn't having it from anybody. He didn't care how many points you put up. He didn't care if you were hurt. If you're on the court, you better play. And that's what you need. Serge Ibaka is that guy. He's going to curse you out. He's going to raise his voice. He's going to cause chaos, but all for the betterment of the team. And that is something that the Clippers need because Ty Lue, listen, like I said, he has a great reputation from guys who have worked with him. He is not the coach who's going to do that. He is a coach who is more interested, I feel like, in being, the guy that his players can come to. He's more interested in being the friend coach. He's not the coach to curse you out. You need somebody who's the aggressor. And Serge Ibaka is the aggressor. I don't think Ty Lue's that guy.
I'll disagree with that on Ty Lue. Ty Lue even said during his presser, I have a little bit of a different energy than Doc. And he's also, when I believe a reporter asked him about holding guys accountable, he's like, I don't care about offending nobody and getting in nobody's face because, Brian Shaw, who he said was his mentor when he came into the league, told him to always be honest when he's talking to any of his teammates or anybody that's in the organization about how he's feeling about stuff. He says, so I've never been a guy to hold my tongue when it comes to dealing with players or criticizing them or putting them in their place. I believe honesty breeds, a good environment, which I believe
I look forward to being wrong. I did not get that.
A little bit of his bidding in the media. And I disagree with that. Ty definitely was not a pushover for LeBron. He wasn't
Yes,
a push
he
up
was.
for LeBron.
Yes,
No, he
Man,
was.
please.
No, he was.
Man,
Yes, he
please.
was.
No, he wasn't.
He absolutely.
LeBron
he
was the
wasn't.
LeBron was the coach of that team.
LeBron was the
If
coach,
you and
the
LeBron
GM,
have
the
I
emperor.
disagree with
Stop
that.
Stop
I
it.
disagree with that.
Stop
That is a
it.
supreme
Stop it.
disservice. See, and I ain't even yelled this
How
whole
is it a
time.
supreme-
But
wait,
that's
wait,
a
wait.
supreme disservice
How?
to the job that he did
LeBron was
and
the
that
coach of that
playoffs
team.
when
LeBron
they came
was-
back
it's
from
the United
3-1.
States of LeBron in
LeBron
them.
ain't the damn. Come on, man. All right,
LeBron
man.
It was
was
the
the
United
coach
States
of
of
that
LeBron in them. That's what it
LeBron
was.
was the one out there out adjusting Steve Kerr with his rotations
Bro,
for the entire
LeBron was
NBA
the coach
Finals.
of that team.
No, he okay.
LeBron
that's
was
cap.
running the show.
That's cap.
LeBron
That's
was
cap.
no, it's not. It's no
I don't
cap.
believe that. That's cap.
You cannot believe oxygen
cap.
exists. It still exists.
Yeah, that's cap.
Doesn't mean
It's
a damn
cap.
thing.
LeBron James won the
Ty
coach
Lue
of the
was not.
team.
Ty
That's
Lue
cap.
was a
He won the
game-
coach
Ty
of the
Lue-
team.
Ty Lue was
damn
a
near-
game
look,
manager.
okay. Let me give you an example
The,
because
the stress of
hold on, hold
coaching
on.
that team was stressing him out so much. He was having anxiety
Now-
issues and
now
literally
listen.
quit because he
I
was
don't know what
tired of
happened.
coaching them.
Listen, I don't know what happened
What?
in Miami. Ashley could tell me a little bit more about Miami because she
He
was
ain't
down
walk
there
over
during the
Spo
time.
Either. You
Hold
think
on, let
Spo
me
let him
finish.
walk over him? Come on,
CP,
man.
let me finish. Hold on. Let me finish my point, bro. Hold on. Relax. What I'm saying is, I don't know what happened in Miami because I wasn't there. Ashley can attest to that because she was down there and she had a better pulse than I did. I'm telling you, what I see in another locker room right now is the fact that LeBron is running shop. I called the Lakers the new Death Row Records because you have LeBron, you have Rich Paul, you have Anthony Davis, okay, and you have Rob Pelinka, who I called LeBron was Dr. Dre. I said Rich Paul was Suge Knight.
Rob Pelinka running shots, man.
And Rob Pelinka was David
Kennedy.
Kennedy.
Guys that are getting
And AD
paychecks,
was
other
Snoop.
people are running the shots.
Maybe
LeBron
listen,
ain't running
a-
But
a
LeBron
credit-
is
Ain't
calling
running
the
nothing
shots.
but to the bank to deposit.
That's
that
not true,
check.
man. That's not true.
Thomas,
Ah.
if
You're
you
not
really,
speaking. You're
if
not.
you
You're not
really,
speaking factual. You're not speaking
If you
factual, man.
really-
I'm telling.
if
I'm
you-
telling you.
No. Wait a
I'm
minute.
telling you what I seen
What's
and what I've
happening
been
in the
in the locker
Lakers?
room.
What's happening in the Lakers
So let me-
is
so what
whatever's
I'm
happening in the
saying-
Lakers.
so
But
what I'm-
no, wait a minute.
no.
LeBron
That's
wasn't
not-
running things in Cleveland so much to the tune that Dan
Excuse
Gilbert
me?
literally. Wait a minute. Let me finish. So much to the tune that Dan Gilbert literally was getting rid of all of his trainers, and that's why he left. He left because Dan Gilbert was literally like, bro, you don't call shots here. I do. You don't
And how'd
call
that work out
shots
for
here.
Dan Gilbert?
He got rid of his trainers. He got rid of
How'd
all
that
his
work out for
boys
Dan
that was
Gilbert?
hanging around. And he left. But why do you think he
Oh.
left? Because he wasn't running the show.
And then when he
Because
came
was
back,
not
wait.
running the show.
TP,
Even
so
when he came
came
back, he wasn't
wait.
running the show. That's why he left again. Because literally, Dan Gilbert was like, yo, your people got to go. And Bron was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to LA then. If my people can't be here, I got to go.
I'm not
Literally,
saying
the GM
I'm
he
not-
like, gone. The coach he like, gone. What? Why have you
I'm
LeBron?
not
What are you
saying-
stand for?
I'm
Ty
not
Lue
saying-
going insane. What do you stand for? Who y'all got? You want him to stay there to play with Colin Sexton under the new regime where he can't have none of his people? We
You
gotta
know
stop
good,
acting
TP.
like
You
no.
know good and
We
well
gotta
he
stop
was
acting
already
like
headed to
LeBron
LA for
does-
multitude of reasons.
Yes, and Magic
Okay.
Johnson set the play up. You think Magic didn't set the play up? Magic didn't see the play. Magic literally said, "We are going to win a championship in the next 3 years. LeBron is going to be the architect. LeBron is going to help take us to a new generation of Lakers basketball." Yes, so of course they're going to give him cachet. You brought him in for this, but in Cleveland,
And Cleveland did the
his-
same thing when he
it
came back
ran
from
out.
Miami.
No, it didn't. It ran out. It literally, might happen
What did
for a
he-
year, and then it ran out. It literally
Listen,
ran
Why-
out.
Okay, Ashley, let me ask you this question.
It
Why did
literally
LeBron
ran
leave
out.
Miami? Why did LeBron leave Miami?
why did he
Why did
leave
he
Miami?
Because they wouldn't let him
leave
go.
Legitimate. No, I want the real deal. You know, we talking straight
Oh, we
now.
talking real deal. Okay.
We talking straight.
Well, Pat Riley runs a very tight ship, and Pat Riley is the leader of that team, not LeBron, not D Wade, not who anybody else you can think of. And there's a very specific culture in Miami. And after they won the championships, I don't think LeBron was okay any longer with that culture. I think he wanted to go home, be the hometown hero, and have a little bit more say-so in what the team that he was on was doing. And he wasn't going to get that in Miami. Miami doesn't play that. They don't care who you are. It's a very strict type of culture. Pat Riley runs a very tight ship. When he went back to Cleveland, I'm not going to sit here and
He
say
went back to Cleveland
he was.
for his reputation.
I'm not going to sit back. Part of that, yes, but I'm not going to sit up here and say that he was running the front office. But if you don't think that he was calling the shots when it came to that playbook, you are out of your mind.
Thank you.
Ty
Lue may have been the head coach by title, but LeBron was pulling those strings. Do not think otherwise.
I think that's ridiculous. I really do. LeBron is not the one that's out there. No, it's not, because even when they won the championship that year, the only reason they won that championship was because Tyronn Lue literally out-adjusted Steve Kerr to hell. And if you listen to, and if you've been a Warriors fan, all my Warriors fans can attest to this, because I'm not a Clippers fan. I cover the Clippers. As a Warriors fan, every single goddamn Warriors fan during that season was like, Kerr, make more adjustments. He is killing you with adjustments right now. LeBron ain't out there changing the rotations and making adjustments during the game. LeBron got some sets he like. Give LeBron his sets. The reason why David Black got fired was because David Black was a goddamn idiot.
Because LeBron didn't like him.
No, because LeBron didn't like him.
LeBron didn't like him.
Because he was an idiot. Because why the hell do you want fucking Kyle Korver or J.R. Smith or whoever it is to take the three to end the game when I'm LeBron James? You better get your little shoe having ass out of here.
But are you listening to what you're saying? What you're saying is that
so wait a minute. Having a coach that's a player's coach now means that you run the show.
No, but can I
we
say
know
my point?
Frank Vogel don't run the show, but we know why LeBron runs the show in LA.
Okay,
so you go straight to Lakers have
been. No, because the Lakers have been a franchise that has literally done nothing basically the last decade. And they were sick of being irrelevant. And they would much rather concede power to LeBron and let LeBron do what he wants to do so long as he attracts stars and delivers championships. That's not the case in every place that he goes, which is the reason why he don't stay in one place. Because if he just had carte blanche to do whatever he wants to, what you running around for, big fella?
I'm not going to talk about the Lakers. I'm going to talk about the Clippers. What you said was
I know Nick is being truthful about the Lakers because Nick covers the Lakers. So I'm not disagreeing with you about the Lakers. But let's not act like Ty Lue wasn't doing his job. I hate when people discredit Tyronn Lue.
We're not saying that he wasn't doing his job. We just saying
when you say that LeBron James is the coach of the team,
but let's call it spade a spade.
Disservice to him. It's not a spade though.
You call it
It's not a spade. It's not a spade.
We're not saying that.
Being LeBron's ally is not being LeBron's ally is nothing wrong with being his ally. If you know and you sitting on that bench while David Black is clearly annoying the guy that's a superstar, the guy that you have a good rapport with, the guy that you both think alike, and then LeBron says, yo, this dude gotta go or we gonna have some real problems. They get rid of him and they could have picked anybody on that bench or anybody to come in and coach LeBron. And they picked Ty Lue, and LeBron instantly gave Tyronn Lue a ringing endorsement and said, I like the way he thinks about basketball. What do you mean? He never ever said, oh, well, I like Ty Lue because he's a player coach. He always talked about Ty Lue's basketball mind. Even last season, he spoke about how disrespected Tyronn Lue was. He also spoke about how disrespected Eric Spoelstra was as the coach in Miami. I hate this narrative that LeBron is some evil, maniacal fucking puppeteer. We got to stop this, man. He get paid just like everybody else in the NBA.
I'm not saying that Ty Lue didn't have any responsibility as head coach. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is if you think if you think somebody who got one coach fired to be replaced with somebody that they had a preference for because he knew that he had the type of relationship with him where his input would matter. If you think that LeBron James was not calling any of the shots in that playbook, you're crazy. And as someone who lives in, and as somebody who lives in Miami, I can tell you one of the main reasons that LeBron went home was because Pat Riley was not having any of that. He does not care who you are. He does not care how many rings you were. You do not get special treatment in Miami and calling the shots just because you are a star. That's not how it works down here. He went home, yes, because he wanted to be a hometown hero. He wanted to finish the job of bringing Cleveland a championship like he had promised. I'm not debating that. But the reason Ty Lue was brought in was not just because he's a player's coach. It's because LeBron knew that his relationship with him would give him a leg up and being part of the decision making of that team. That's literally the definition
of a player's coach.
Calling the shots is the definition of a play. He was calling those plays. If you think LeBron,
come on,
okay. We can
But
agree
also,
to
oh
disagree.
wait, hold on, wait.
We
So
can agree
calling
to
the play,
disagree.
whoa. So calling the plays make you the coach now? So that means Steve Coach was the coach of the D'Antoni offenses, where D'Antoni gave him the playbook and let Steve coach. I'm sorry, and let Steve Nash call his own plays and run his own shots and run the offense. D'Antoni has said numerous times, I'm not always calling plays. I give my guys sets and I let them do what they want to do. So that means James Harden coached the team now? That means Steve
My
Nash coached the
question
team
is-
now?
my
No.
question
Just
for
because
you
a
is-
guy is on your side and in your corner and you got plays you want to be called versus the dodo bird that wanted to fucking have J.R. Smith take the last 3-point shot of the game, you goddamn right that's my guy. You goddamn right that's my man's. And you goddamn right if I'm Ty Lue, LeBron my man's, Bron, what kind of plays you want to run, G? Let's figure out how to go and get this ring and get this money. Because if you aren't and you're being combative with LeBron James, you're losing. Because even Miami, it took them forever to recover from LeBron. Now they got back, but we're not gonna act like the Heat, if LeBron would have stayed and re-up for another 4 years, wouldn't have been way more of a force over the past 6, 7, 8 years of the NBA than they were after he decided to go ahead and leave. And even the preceding year before he left, when all of the rumors were about him leaving because he wasn't able to wield his power because Pat Riley was like, nah, we running an organization. This is the way you win championships. Clearly, Pat Riley was right because LeBron, since he left Pat Riley, has only gotten 2 rings, but he got 2 when he had Pat Riley. All I'm saying is I don't like this narrative that LeBron tells his coaches what to do, and they're just like, all right, LeBron, you do whatever.
But it's not a narrative.
At some point, the guys that coach LeBron go on and coach other teams. So to disrespect them and act like they not good coaches is egregious to me. It is. And every time I hear it, I'm not going to agree with it. I don't care what y'all say. It's a disservice to the guys that actually are going out there that coach beyond when they play with LeBron James. It's disrespectful to them. I don't care what y'all say.
It's not a narrative. It's the fact of one of the reasons why he left Miami. It's not me coming up with pulling it out of thin air. It's not
I
me
know he
making it
left
up.
Miami because I just said that. I just said he couldn't do what he wanted to do. So what does that mean?
So knowing that that's the reason he left Miami was because he could not have the freedom that he felt he was entitled. He went to Cleveland. First of all, when Blatt was coach, their record was like 29-10. They were winning. So why would you fire a winning coach? Because you could not control him. Because with him at the realm,
J.R. Smith to take the last shot.
They
of
were
the game.
winning. They had a winning
I don't
record.
care. I am a Chicago Bulls fan. LeBron James has crushed my heart since he came in the league. Do not tell me at the end of the goddamn game when I'm LeBron James that you gonna have me play a decoy for some damn J.R. Smith.
They were winning.
Cool. But for J.R. Smith or for Channing Frye or for any of them other bums, you are out of your mind and no, I cannot play for you.
Get
off my team.
You're missing the point.
How?
Yeah, you are missing the point.
Sense.
No, it's not.
How? How you gonna win a championship if I don't like the coach?
Can you listen to what I'm saying?
How are you going? I'm asking you a question. If
you won't let me answer the question.
How? How are you going to win a championship? Go ahead.
I'm saying is why fire? It doesn't matter. Do you care whether or not you like a coach? If that coach is helping you win, if you have a winning record, do I have to like my boss as long as he's paying me? Why do I care? We don't gotta go to dinner together. He was winning.
That's bullshit.
You're gonna let me
People
finish?
leave their jobs all the time because they don't like their boss, even though they winning and they getting paid. You know how many companies I done left where I was making money and I ain't like my boss, so I was like, yo, let me get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about?
You
that
don't
make sense.
You don't get fired as a head coach for letting J.R. Smith take a shot. What you're saying is ridiculous. He got fired
because LeBron says, what is this guy doing? He does not know what he's doing.
We're
winning in spite of him. That's ludicrous, and after he was fired, they looked way better and they went on to win a championship. It's not ridiculous. David Blatt was not some offensive dynamo that changed the world.
What you're saying doesn't make any sense.
And also, this is my question. What team has LeBron been on where LeBron doesn't run offense?
So then what are you arguing?
No, I'm asking you a question.
That's what we've been trying to tell you for the last 20 minutes.
You've
been bumping your gums for the last 20 minutes about that.
I literally mentioned Steve Nash and said Steve Nash runs offense, so does that mean he doesn't have a coach?
No, Steve Nash wasn't responsible. Steve Nash was not responsible for getting D'Antoni hired or fired. He didn't have that kind of pull. LeBron
He was
James
responsible for getting Black.
Listen,
hired.
No, hold on.
He hired
Hold on.
David Black.
Hold on, just a minute. Let me finish, because you've been bumping your guns for 20 damn minutes and ain't.
It's my damn show. I can bump my gums.
But
It's my
but
damn
listen to
show.
something. Then be on it by yourself.
It's my damn show.
Then be on it by yourself.
Let me talk. I let y'all talk when y'all talk.
You ain't let us talk. You've been cutting her off and cutting me off. We've been trying to tell you the same shit for the last 20
We having
minutes.
an argument about something and I don't agree
No,
with y'all.
that's
I
fine.
don't
Not
have
to
to agree with y'all.
That's fine. We're not saying we don't need you to agree with us. We just need you to hear it. What I'm saying is, my point early on was the fact that you don't change the game in the ninth inning. You don't come to a Laker organization changing up completely when you have the same habit you've been doing in Cleveland. It's the same damn thing. The reason why Ashley just said the reason why this man left the Miami Heat because he got tired of bucking up against a system that said we're not going to sway either way. This is our system. This is the way we're going to do things. Like it or lump it, take it or leave it. This is the way it's going to be done. And like she said, LeBron said, hey, the hell with this. I'm the superstar of the squad. I'm going back home. Think about this, TP. Why the hell would LeBron want to go back to fucking Cleveland, and leave South Beach when he already had a team he could have orchestrated and put together, and they could have been winning.
Hated him. Because at that point in time, he was one of the most hated athletes on the planet.
You think he
didn't
cared?
like
Did
it.
When was he
did.
hated?
He's spoken about it publicly.
When was he
times they
hated?
What are you talking about? They threw
When was
batteries
he
at the man.
hated?
What are you?
Because he was winning.
At LeBron.
Every champion gets hated when they win. What the hell are you
What the
talking
hell
about?
are you talking about? They didn't
What are
hate
you
LeBron
talking
in
about?
Cleveland.
You're not making any
They didn't hate
damn
LeBron
sense.
in Cleveland. They didn't hate LeBron in Cleveland after he left.
When he left, yes. Because
So he had to
of how
come
he
back
left.
and redeem himself. What the hell are you talking about? When he
What would
came
he
back,
go
they were
for?
throwing batteries at him.
He went back because he could control the operation.
So
That's
how can
why
he
he
control?
went back.
No. So this is my question.
That's
You're
not
not making
the only-
any goddamn sense.
Stop.
That's not the only
Because you're not
reason he
speaking
went back,
facts.
though.
You're not speaking facts. He went back.
That's a
They
good
hired-
that's a
No,
good
stop.
portion of it.
He went back. They hired David Blatt without even consulting him. So what are you talking about?
So what are you talking about? She just said he was 29 and 10. Why the fuck would you
he
get
was-
rid of
he
him?
Because
he
he
was
was
actually
not the
30
coach
and
that
11.
LeBron liked and felt that he could win a championship with. What are you talking about? If you have a
So that
leader,
means
you want to be in a foxhole with somebody you
that was
believe in.
What did you just say just now?
The main reason
What
why
did you
Doc
just say just now?
I said somebody you believe in. I didn't say
No,
somebody you can coach.
No, before that, you said they hired the coach before LeBron, right? Which means LeBron had no input on this coach, correct?
That's my point.
So now
when he
LeBron
comes
has
in
input on a coach,
and he
which means
doesn't
he's
like
still
the
calling
guy.
shots. Which we
think-
both said he's calling the shots. That's all we said.
How do you not give the number one player in the NBA the coach that he wants?
He's calling the shots. What are you talking
Then
about?
what are you debating? That's
How
literally
do
That's
you
what I'm
not
saying.
give the number one player in the NBA the coach he wants? That don't mean he don't have a coach. Y'all sit up here talking about Tyronn Lue like he don't coach. That is my
I
whole
didn't say
point.
that.
Stop
What are
acting
you
like
talking about?
What
You're
are
not
you
making
talking
any
about?
sense.
That's
All
not
right.
what I
Making any
said.
sense.
All right, okay.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
What I said was
What are you talking about?
That's
that
not
he
what I
gonna get
said.
run over. LeBron did. LeBron called the plays
That's
when he
not
was
what
in
I
Cleveland.
said.
Yes, he was the point guard of the team. He's been running the offense since
He
the day he
still
came
had
in the
plays,
NBA.
bro.
He still needs a coach. So to
That's not-
act like guys like Tyronn Lue have not won a championship and to diminish the work that they have done because LeBron James is a disservice. I don't give a damn. I don't agree with that. Stop taking everything that everybody does with LeBron and putting it all on LeBron. You still have to go out there and coach. I don't give a damn if he called the shots. I still got to coach his ass. And if he don't like me, I can get fired just like the last guy. That don't mean
so
you
what
don't have
you
to
saying?
coach.
That-
They didn't
but
like
what-
Doc. They didn't like Doc. He got fired because they didn't like him anymore. They didn't respect him and they didn't like his voice. That has nothing to do with if Doc Rivers is a good coach or not, or if they had a good record. The Clippers were 49 and 23 last year. More franchise wins, I believe, than damn near any year that they were on pace to before COVID. So why is Doc getting fired? Because they did not like him, and they want guys that their star players can depend on, that they know is a good coach, and that can come in and rally the troops because they like him. That's my whole damn point. It has nothing to do with who LeBron getting traded. Stop acting like guys that coach LeBron don't coach LeBron. They still coach LeBron. And if you coach LeBron wrong, you can be gone. But you still have to coach LeBron. LeBron is not his own coach.
We didn't say that. We weren't
We
saying
never
that.
said. I never
You weren't saying
said.
that. You're trying to push your
LeBron
own
called-
narrative.
All right, okay. all
You're
right.
trying to
I
push your
never-
own narrative, man.
I'm
I
not
never
pushing my
said-
own narrative. Y'all literally just diminished this man, Ty Lue. What are you talking about? Go
I
back and
never
watch his afterwards and see how y'all open up talking about the man.
I never said that Ty Lue didn't coach. What I said was, and I'll repeat it so that you can hear me again. What I said was, if you think that LeBron James was not partly coaching that team, you are wrong. The reason David Blatt got fired was not because he let J.R. Smith take a ridiculous shot. He was winning as a coach. Most coaches do not get fired when they are winning. He was fired because LeBron James could not control him and could not relate to him, could not deal with him, could not have an impression on him like he did Ty Lue. That's all I'm saying. And if you think that LeBron James didn't have any say-so on who that head coach was going to be when Bland got fired, you're mistaken. And the reason Ty Lue was selected, there was a reason for it. I'm not saying Ty Lue has no idea what he's doing. I'm not saying that he's a bad coach. I'm not saying he has no concept of the game of basketball. What I'm saying is when it came to that Cleveland team, it was a partnership between Ty Lue and LeBron James. LeBron James was as very much involved in the plays that team used throughout the season, especially in the championship, as Ty Lue was. That's all we're saying. And if you think otherwise, I can relate the Miami Heat era to you as a perfect example. It's no different than the backlash Spoelstra used to get back in the day. Oh, he's not really running the team. Pat Riley is pulling the strings. Pat Riley is the one doing it. He's just a game manager. It's the same thing. It was
disrespectful to him then, and it is now.
Well, But I never said. Listen. I never said. I don't. Nobody. None of us ever said that. Well, none of us ever said that Ty Lue cannot coach. We never said that. None of us have never said that.
You diminish your job as a coach when you say that. Because I've never heard anyone say Kobe Bryant called the shots with Phil Jackson or be like, oh, Kobe ran the team with Phil Jackson. No, G, stop.
We never said he couldn't
Nick,
coach.
Give me one second. Phil Jackson and Ty Lue are two totally different coaches. You cannot compare the two. Phil Jackson does not have to be coached. He does not have to be, pushed in one direction. That man is a genius. Ty Lue is not Phil Jackson. What Phil Jackson, the way Phil Jackson's mind works, it is a privilege to play for that man. It is a privilege to be in his presence. It is a privilege to call him a head coach. Ty Lue is not that guy. Ty Lue is not a Phil Jackson. He's not.
No, I'm not saying he's Phil Jackson. But like I said, it's a lot of disrespect in y'all undertones in regards to Tyronn Lue. And we can agree to disagree on it. But I don't agree with y'all position on that.
No, that's fine.
This man is not. No, listen. I have no problem with guys walking in tandem with their coach. That's what you want your star players to do. The best coaches always do that. But I don't undermine the best coaches for walking hand in hand with their star because that's what you should want to do. And if David Blatt is not walking hand in hand with his star, regardless of how many wins they have, he's not doing a good job coaching. So go find someone that can do a good job and coach that team. Yes, get someone LeBron wants to walk hand in hand. This man, Kyrie Irving, on Kevin Durant podcast, and Kevin Durant talking about, well, we don't really feel like we have a coach because we're all going to be having input and all this stuff on the plays. Gee, stop disrespecting your coach and diminishing what your coach going to do. Yeah, you're going to have input, but to act like you don't have a coach, all right, it's disrespectful to me. I don't care how y'all
I mean, I don't care what people say. That's fine.
I hate this narrative that LeBron James is some evil, maniacal.
We never said he was evil. We just said that's what it was.
Yeah, but part of it, yes. But like I said,
but you read too much into it, man.
No, I'm not, because that's always been the narrative with LeBron. Is that he don't need a coach and we can just do whatever with LeBron. Clearly, it's not the case because he's had a lot of coaches and he hasn't been successful with every one of them. That's my whole point. Guys have to be able to coach LeBron.
But here's the thing.
Not every coach that has coached LeBron has had success, i.e. 4 championships in 17 years.
What happened? Okay,
that's my whole point.
That's fine. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. Nobody ever said.
I really hate the way people talk about
listen,
Tyronn.
Nobody ever said that Tyronn Lue isn't intelligent. He doesn't have a high basketball IQ. Nobody ever said. No, we're not. Let me finish. Nobody ever said that he could not coach or he wasn't worthy of gracing the NBA sidelines. Nobody ever said that. All we simply stated was the simple fact that how LeBron orchestrates the way he plays basketball and then the organizations that he has ran and hadn't ran. Okay, that was all we said. Ty Lue, we all know why Ty Lue got brought in. We all knew, anybody with half a brain knew the fact of what Ty Lue was able to run and what LeBron was able to run. Period, point blank. That's why there's the running joke of that LeBron is the GM, he's the coach, he's the player personnel. That's the running joke. Why is that? Because there's a little bit of truth in every joke. And when you say that's around the league, that's been said around the league from guys like Jalen Rose and everybody else that covers the NBA, they've always had that running joke about LeBron James. Why is that about LeBron James and not say, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant or Kevin Garnett or somebody of superstar status? Because that's the going narrative. Because obviously there's some truth to that little bit of narrative and that little bit of joke. That's all we're saying. We're not diminishing Ty Lue. Just because we don't, lather this dude up and ball wash him like that doesn't mean we're diminishing him.
Ball wash it, but talk about this man like he's not a champion.
Like he's a champion by circumstance. He's a champion by circumstance.
That's exactly what I'm talking. This is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Cleveland Cavaliers would not have won a championship if he was not the coach. They would not. David Blatt is not out adjusting and beating the Warriors.
All right.
They're not. They are not. I don't give a damn
That's why they won that championship.
Okay.
What? Because of coaching. Because of coaching and Draymond Green deciding to slap LeBron in the nuts.
So you're gonna say right now that Ty Lue was the reason that they won that championship.
He was
that if I
give responsibility, it's 33% him, 33% LeBron, 33% Kyrie Irving.
So if you had put a different,
I'll give LeBron 34% and give the other two 33 because LeBron did get the block. He was all time great that series. But
so if you put another coach in that situation, the Cavs wouldn't have won. Is that what you're saying?
No. I really don't believe that. I really don't believe that. They were getting
I think they would have won with or without Tyler.
I think they could have possibly won.
I spent the past 14 years damn near obsessively watching the Warriors. And that entire series, they got out adjusted every single game, be it offensively, be it defensively, be it the rotations, be it timeouts. Tyronn Lue coached an amazing playoffs that year, and David Blatt would not have been able to do that. And I don't care if LeBron had input on what they ran. That's what you want a good coach to do. The reason why Tom Brady and Bruce Arians not getting along right now is because Tom is trying to run Bruce thing, and he's like, Bruce, the way you want to do this ain't really the best. And Bruce keeps calling Tom out in the press. Well, Tom got to do better. Well, maybe
so should they fire
need
Bruce?
To figure out how to get on the same page. And then when y'all get out on the same page, y'all can maybe do better rather than fingers.
But using your logic, let me just play devil's advocate. If we're using your logic, then should Tom Brady then get Bruce Arians fired and replaced with Bill Belichick, a coach that he has better success with? Is that what you're saying?
No,
because that's essentially what LeBron did.
That's not the same thing.
That's essentially what LeBron did.
Tyronn Lue and Bill Belichick are the same. I'm sorry.
What I'm saying is LeBron. Wait, let me finish. What I'm saying is, let me finish.
Telling me that it's 4.
Let me finish. What I'm saying is using your logic that because Arians and Brady are bumping heads, they do not like each other, although they have a winning record. Because he does not like him, and cannot control him. Should he bring Bill Belichick in? Because that is what happened with Ty Lue and LeBron.
Ashley.
LeBron was winning.
3 and 2.
LeBron
Bill Belichick is not an assistant coach.
LeBron was winning. He's a head coach
for his former team. You're comparing 3 plus 2.
LeBron was.
No, stop.
You're not letting me finish. No, you're not letting me finish.
Because you're doing completely different examples.
No, because you won't let me finish.
If Tom Brady got Bruce Arians fired for the offensive coordinator, then yes, it's the same thing. But him getting him fired to go get Belichick, who's coaching a completely different team, who has run a championship organization for 20 years, is not the same thing. Stop it. That's not the same thing. That is not the same thing.
I'm not going to talk over you.
Like that's the same thing.
I'm not going to talk over you.
Nick, is that the same thing?
You wouldn't let me finish. But you wouldn't let me finish.
Because you're not adding the same things up. You're not adding the same things up. It's not essentially the same thing.
Yes, it is, because I'm using your logic.
An assistant became the head coach. You're talking about going to get another head coach from another team. That's not what was the case.
You're playing
Tyronn Lue was on the bench already.
You're playing semantics in the terms of what their actual job description was. What I'm saying is you sat here 15 minutes ago and said that.
Ashley, how am I playing semantics when you literally just told me? No, stop, because you just told me I'm playing semantics. I'm asking you a question. How am I playing semantics If you literally just told me that a guy that was an assistant coach, that was never a head coach, became the head coach after the head coach got fired, but on a completely different thing, a guy that is a generational head coach, right, could get fired for a guy that's not a generational head coach, and he can replace him, and that's the same thing as if that not generational head coach got replaced by an assistant. It's not the same thing. It's not semantics.
If you would let
Stop
me
it.
finish, don't tell me to stop
That's not
it.
semantic.
What I'm
That's not the
saying
same
is,
thing, G.
what I
You're
am trying
tripping.
to.
You're tripping.
Okay.
That's not the same
I'm not
thing.
going to talk over you. What I'm saying is you sat here 15 minutes ago and said that LeBron wanted a coach that he could walk hand in hand with, that was going to, he was going to have a good relationship with because they got along. That is what a superstar does. That is superstar right. You get your superstar the coach that he wants. Is that not what you said? So using your logic, if your superstar in this situation, it's Tom Brady. They are on a winning team. Just because him and Arians do not get along does not mean that he's not able to do his job. So you said that David Bland was fired because LeBron and him could not get along, and that's why they brought Ty Lue, and whether or not he was on the bench is regardless. For using your logic, should Bill Belichick now be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks because Tom Brady didn't have a better relationship? What you're saying doesn't make sense. Blatt was winning. Whether or not LeBron got along with him, what does it matter? They were winning. Just like Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, they may not like each other, but they are winning. What is the difference? There is none. He did not get fired because he made J.R. Smith take a ridiculous shot. He got fired because LeBron could not control him. That's simply what it was. He did not have the relationship with him where his input was valued. That is all we're saying. We're not saying he didn't do his job. We're not saying he's incapable of coaching at any standard. We're just saying that LeBron was not able to move the way he moved with Ty Lue with Blatt. That is all we're simply saying. Nick, go ahead.
You finished, and your example still ain't the same thing. But I feel
Okay, that's
you
fine.
finished, and it's still not.
That's
equal.
fine.
You're comparing an all-time generational coach coming to take over the place of one guy for an assistant that took over the place of a guy that was a first-year coach in the NBA. It is not the same thing. Period.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
Now, that's like if you telling me that Steve Kerr came in to coach the Cavaliers instead of David Blatt. But that's not the same thing, G. Tyronn Lue never head coached nobody ever. David Blatt was never a head coach in the NBA. He was never a head coach in the NBA.
But he was a head coach.
In Europe, that's not the NBA.
He was a head
That's
coach.
like-
What
in
experience
Europe,
did Ty
that's
Lue
not-
have to get that job?
In Europe, what do you mean Tyronn Lue was a championship basketball player who then played with, I believe, 4 of arguably the 10 greatest basketball
that
players
makes
to ever
you
play
that
basketball.
makes you a good head coach. He was never a head coach before that.
You talking about versus the guy that was
What I'm
head
saying
coach
is
in the middle of nowhere that nobody had heard of before?
But he has a head coach experience. So now
Have
we're
you
now
heard of David Blatt before you heard
now
of
we're
that?
negating,
Or have you
now
heard of
we're
Tyronn
negating-
Lue?
Now we're negating. I know Tyronn Lue because he got stepped over by Iverson. Are we gonna play semantics on that? Are we
You still
really
know
gonna,
who he
so
is,
we're gonna,
do you
so-
not?
okay, but not for for being the coach.
You know the man played basketball, did you not?
Okay,
Okay,
every
man,
so every
so
basketball
guys know
player
who he
can be a head
is.
coach.
Do they know who
So
David Blatt is?
So every basketball player can be a head coach if we're using that logic.
I have
Even though
seen
you
you
did,
in the past 6 months compare JaVale McGee and Chris Middleton to each other, and Bill Belichick and Tyronn
I didn't compare.
Lue coming off the bench.
Don't
to each other.
put.
I have heard
Don't
it
put
all,
words.
G.
Don't put words
I
in my
have
mouth.
heard
That's
it
not what
all,
I said.
G.
Do
Go
not
back
put
and
words
watch
in
that
my
Hoops and
mouth.
Brews. Y'all
That's
can
not
see
what I
it there.
said.
Go back.
That's
I
not
have
what I
heard,
said.
I have
What I
heard
said-
it all, G.
What I said was, if you're gonna, I'm not even gonna go back to that Chris Middleton thing because you're twisting my words around, and I don't appreciate it. But I'm not even
It's
gonna
on the
acknowledge
internet.
that.
Go
That's
back
not.
and watch it.
I never said that they were the same player. That's not what I said, and you
You-
know
you
that's not what I
compared them.
said. I'm
You
not going
compared
to
them.
go. I'm not going to play this game with you. What I'm simply saying is you may not know what country, or you may not know, or may have been European basketball, whatever the case may be. He was still a head coach. Ty Lue was a player with no coaching experience. The reason he got plucked into that job, put into that position, was because of LeBron James' influence. Don't sit here and tell me that you think, oh no, Ty Lue was calling all the shots himself. It's not the case. Just because you do not know David Blatt, he was coming from European basketball, he was still a head coach. He still had that underneath his resume. Don't disrespect that man
And
just
LeBron
because.
still didn't respect him, and LeBron didn't respect
What
him or his
difference-
coaching mind.
Oh,
So-
with that,
so-
you just proved. Okay, I can't.
How am I-
You're
how
literally
am I-
just proved our point.
That LeBron didn't respect him in his coaching mind. I literally
So,
said that was why he got fired.
But he respects the mind of a man who's never coached. Think about what you're saying.
Of a man who played in the NBA for 12 years,
God.
who played with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal. I believe he played with Kevin Garnett. He played with Ray Allen. He played with Paul. He didn't play with damn near every great player you can think of. This guy don't know what he's doing.
Did he coach them?
Bitch players make the best coaches. Bitch players make the best coaches. What are you talking about? He don't know what he's doing. He don't know how to run the NBA offense. He don't know how guys in America know how to like they cheeseburgers versus this guy who came from Europe, who don't know what he's doing, who can't coach LeBron, who LeBron is getting frustrated with because he keep calling out dumbass plays when LeBron's like, bro, what are you doing? I'm looking at the floor. This ain't there. A good coach is going to be able to say, hey, Tom, you know what? You're right. You might see that thing. I don't see that. And if Tom Brady got Bruce Arians fired and replaced by the offensive coordinator and they started winning and they win a championship, yes, they did the right thing.
So now you're diminishing. Now you're diminishing a championship-winning David Blatt over because Ty Lue has played in the NBA.
Ty Lue where David Blatt win a championship in the National Basketball. So, man, get that out of here.
So wait a second, but you're giving credit to a guy who played in the NBA, who played with championship-winning players, but you're not going to give credit.
In Europe, yes,
he won championships in Europe as a head coach.
What European coach you see? That's the greatest coach of all time. All the greatest basketball coaches of all time come from America, including Mike D'Antoni, who's from Texas.
Okay,
lie to me. What? I'm asking you. What great international basketball coach have you seen? I'm asking. Name them, please. Go ahead and name this list of these guys that have won.
You just call Mike D'Antoni great?
He is. He's not a championship winning coach, but he's still a great coach.
Okay.
He is. There's no way he's still a great coach. He's not a championship winning coach, but he's still a great coach.
Mike D'Antoni. Okay. You gonna
Tom
put
Thibodeau is not a championship winning coach. He's still a great coach.
We're not talking. You didn't mention Tom Thibodeau. You mentioned Mike D'Antoni.
But they're the same.
Mike D'Antoni ain't a great coach. I'm sorry, he's not a great coach at all.
You don't get number one conference records in your conference and continuously.
Is his finger still naked? Is his finger still naked?
Bro?
Wait, so why does D'Antoni get a pass for being a great coach in American basketball with no championships? Wow. David Blatt, who's won multiple championships as a head coach in Europe,
because Mike D'Antoni isn't a. Did you not just hear me say that? Name a guy that's not from America that has came to America as a head basketball coach and had continued success coaching American players. You have never seen a player. I'm sorry. A guy that's from overseas come into the NBA and be a great coach. It doesn't happen. It literally does not happen.
You're playing favorite.
Yeah, you know what? Politics is definitely in your future because you like to shovel it.
You're playing favorite.
You like to shovel it real good.
You're playing favorite.
Then name me a guy.
You're playing favorites and you're swaying, you're picking and choosing what matters, and so that benefits your argument.
If we can't relate to the guy, which was literally my whole point, and he's from overseas and we can't relate to him and we don't communicate and we don't think the same about basketball, what are you talking about? This guy who then played with Michael Jordan, you think he don't know how to coach stars and how to take his foot off the pedal and put it on the pedal, how not to get punched in the face like Steve Kerr did by Michael Jordan, how to absorb energy from Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and Eddie Jones and all these other good guys that he's played with, but a guy that's from overseas that I had no part in being hired is brought in to coach this team, and we're successful, I feel, in spite of him, versus a guy that I believe that's on the bench that can actually do a better job at helping our guys, because I believe that our guys need something different. Yes, what do you mean? Tyronn Lue is not somebody that ain't never been on the NBA sideline. He just spent most of his time in his career watching.
I've been on the NBA sideline. Should I coach?
Huh?
I've been on the NBA sideline from a reporting standpoint. Should I coach?
Man, stop lying. That's like telling me I should coach and I don't belong nowhere.
You know what I'm saying? But what you're saying, so what?
I have been to.
J.R. Smith.
Have you played in the NBA? I don't know.
J.R. Smith played in the NBA. Should he coach?
How much is J.R. Smith going to study, and what's his basketball plan? What's his plan for his team? What kind of offense does his team want to run?
You're picking and choosing when a championship matters and when it doesn't.
I'm sure people say Bill Laimbeer wouldn't be a good coach too, and because of the way he was as a player, and I've seen him have a lot of success in the W. You ain't played in no professional league, no WNBA, no NBA. Stop comparing yourself to guys that have. I don't. You shouldn't either.
I'm not comparing. What I'm saying.
You are when you saying should I be the head coach?
Because what you're saying is ridiculous. They plucked him off the bench. Somebody with no coaching experience. Why? Because that's what LeBron wanted.
How he get on the bench then?
He's a former player who got a position on a team and he was on the bench. He's never been a head coach before. And for you to sit here and say that David Blatt getting fired mid-season with a winning record, I've had coaches on the Knicks longer when we were losing that got to see a full season. That got to see a full season. Mike D'Antoni's seen multiple seasons. There's been coaches who've seen multiple seasons and did not get fired mid-season. David Blatt got fired not because he was not performing, not because he had a bad call where J.R. Smith took a ridiculous shot. He got fired because LeBron did not want him there. That is as simple as it is.
Because he called a play for J.R. Smith or Channing Frye, I believe it was, after that game. And literally after that game, when he called that play, he got fired. And the whole season long, LeBron never endorsed David Blatt. Go back and actually watch the footage.
Well,
Period.
LeBron,
go back and watch the footage.
LeBron endorsed Ty Lue, so I'm looking forward to seeing what
he endorsed Frank Vogel too.
I'm excited to see what he does with the Clippers since he is this miraculous coach.
I think that he's a very good coach. Okay. I think he's a very good coach, and I think Ty
Lue is a good coach. I think Ty Lue's in a different situation. I think Ty Lue has a different situation as it pertains to these players that's coming in right now. I think there is a little bit of experience because he was on the bench last season as an assistant coach, but still, nonetheless, he was still understanding the players and building that chemistry with those particular players. So I think it may be in his favor for him to get the head coaching position with the Clippers because there's some familiarity, like Ashley said, and like you said, TP, he is a player's coach. But as far as Ty Lue getting them over the hump, as far as getting them out of the second round, and letting them sniff the Western Conference Finals, I'm not high on the hopes of that happening. It can happen, but I'm not high on the hopes of that happening as it pertains to that because I think it goes deeper than Ty Lue. I think it goes, as we all said on this platform. I think it's a lot of chemistry issues that still have not been resolved. There's a point guard problem that hasn't been resolved. There is a lack of leadership voice in that locker room that hasn't been resolved. So I think there's a lot of other factors in addition to Ty Lue that's going to prevent this team from being successful. If they check all those boxes that I mentioned, then yeah, they can be successful. They may go on a run because we all know the playoffs is about runs. So if they get a successful run in the playoffs and they stay healthy, I think it'll prove something about Ty Lue. It will prove the fact that Ty Lue doesn't necessarily need a particular individual to be successful. And I think that's the thing that's been hovering over his head for years.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think, this situation with the Clippers.
Same thing about Rick Carlisle and Eric Spoelstra. They in terms of them not being able to do it without their guy or whatever. I'm sorry. I'm just not of the personal opinion.
And they don't say that about
away from guys
anymore.
that have won championship. I've never been, but this is the thing. No, wait a minute, 1 second. The same way I've been vigorously arguing for Tyronn Lue, I've always argued in the same manner for Eric Spoelstra because I felt he was supremely disrespected because of who it was that he coached. And I still feel like you still got to coach the guys that's out there.
Okay. Well, like I said, they said the same thing about Eric Spoelstra, and they don't say that anymore. So this is Ty Lue's opportunity to change the narrative that is around his name. And the narrative around his name is that he's a game manager, that he's not the guy who the X's and O's guy. He's not that genius with the playbook. And if he's able to take this Clippers team and change that, the narrative changes, just like it did with Eric Spoelstra. Pat Riley is no longer pulling his strings. He's now the future Hall of Fame coach, who is one of the best coaches in the NBA. And Ty Lue is in the same boat. He has the opportunity. Are you going to go left or are you going to go right? Left is the narrative stays the same. Right is the narrative changes. Though that the only time will tell.
And I give Ty. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
I think Ty Lue. We got to give Ty Lue some credit, though. I will say he did pick an incredible, coaching style. I think Chauncey Billups is going to be an incredible addition. I think he's going to take the reins as far as the information that he'll be able to bring. Obviously, he also has chemistry with those players because he was the play-by-play guy with the Clippers. So I think that also goes into play. As well as far as the players actually respecting him as an assistant coach now. And the rest of the coach, Kenny Addison, I think that's going to play into somewhat of a role as far as improving that much like how we saw with the Lakers coaching staff, when everybody was questioning out how you going to put all these guys together with Frank Vogel. We saw how that worked. So I think it's going to be the same questions about the Clippers coaching staff, but I think it can work if they're all on one accord. That's been the Clippers' biggest issue, them not being on one accord. If they can get on that, I think it could provide for some success, but we'll see.
Yeah, Tyronn Lue, I just want to say, G, if you ever have a negative word to say about me, G, I'm just going to pull up this footage. I'm like, hey, watch this last 45 minutes, player.
Dude.
I defended you to the death.
I'm sorry. You came and defended him to the death, bro. This is just the way
that I feel when guys, because literally they did it to Steve Kerr's first championship.
I remember.
And I thought it was disrespectful then. And we started the brand right after the Warriors won the first championship. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm sorry. After they lost.
You started after or I thought
I'm sorry. We started it after Cleveland won that year. So
okay, because I started following you guys.
Even at that same point in time when Kerr was quote unquote unproven as a coach and everybody disrespected him, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, well, it's easy to coach Steph Curry and let Steph Curry and Klay Thompson run around. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did you not see what Mark Jackson was doing? But he won games. Winning games don't always mean that you a good coach. And even in terms of managerial stuff, just because you win don't mean your team like you. It really don't. And I didn't have to grow as a manager and as a coach. And I've had to deal with guys that are superstars where I might not necessarily agree with their opinion. But coaching has always been bigger than me and letting them do what they do. That don't mean that I'm letting them just do what they want to, because everybody still need a coach. Even Tom Brady. You the same one that Ashley, where we had this knockdown, drag out argument in a similar fashion about Belichick and Brady. And you told me that they both are in service of each other and they need each other. And you was telling me that Arians ain't the same as Belichick. I agree with you on that. But also at the same token, if they fired him and an offensive coordinator came in and they won championship, hey, maybe Tom knew what he was talking about. That's all.
But then again, but also too, but you also got to remember
that the guy that got hired after him don't know. Maybe that guy actually might have just been sitting the whole time and saying, "I'm peeping what we doing wrong. This is what we could be doing better."
But to that credit though, low key, Arians might be gone by next year. So if he did, using your example, if they did get the offensive coordinator, it would have to be somebody that Tom Brady approves of.
That's my whole point, but that don't mean Tom Brady gonna walk over the man, because Tom Brady, I don't believe, walked all over
Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. He didn't walk all over Josh McDaniels. He didn't walk all over him. He didn't. All
right.
He didn't walk all over him. What do you mean?
Right.
He had his most successful season.
I ain't saying nothing, bro. I ain't saying nothing.
No, did he not?
I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep that feather in my cap.
Who coaching offense? Brady.
I'm gonna keep this feather. Like I said, I'm gonna keep this feather in my cap.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm gonna keep this feather in my
cap. Brady.
You ain't bait me, TP. You ain't bait me, man. I'm good. Asking. I love you, brother. I'm good.
All I will say is this. Is we see what happens with Tom when he don't got that same playbook. That's all I'll say. Y'all go ahead and get y'all final word. Ashley, I'm talking about the same playbook that he had in New England. For real. Come on, Ashley. They have made it known that they are not on the same page offensively. And Bruce is supposed to be a genius. Now, I feel if they told me David Blatt was a genius, and I seen him in the NBA, and he was, he was even around, I feel you. That man wasn't no genius. They was saying, hey, maybe he can help Kyrie Irving play well. Kyrie Irving ain't LeBron James. LeBron, they brought you here to play with this little kid. Gee, I need a grown man to coach this team. But final thoughts. Go ahead. Talk to the people. Let them know where they can find you at.
I can't. You know what? I'm not going. Like Nick, I'm gonna keep that feather in my hat because.
Go ahead, y'all. Look, this is what this platform is for. So
but that's literally not to.
Away, go ahead.
Real quick, just to respond to that, is when I sat up here and said, what was it? I want to say 3 weeks ago, Nick. I believe you were here when I said it, and I said that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady are a symbiotic relationship. They both need each other. You said, well, Tom Brady is winning. What's the Patriots record? And I said, okay, but is he performing at the level he was performing not last season? Let's take that out of the equation because there was a lot going on. Is he performing the way he performed with Bill Belichick that he's performing now with Bruce Arians? No, you're winning because you happen to be on a team with a lot better defense, a stronger offense, a healthier offense than you had at least in your last season in New England. So we can't say that him winning is solely on Tom Brady. Tom Brady's numbers this year have not been that great. And you have to look at it because the system is not geared specifically towards Tom Brady. Tom Brady is And I'm not saying he's not the GOAT. Let's not say he's not the GOAT. He is the
Carlos being
GOAT.
a system QB. Go
I'm
ahead,
not.
say it.
I'm
Peyton
saying
was too, though. Peyton was for his last
he
2
is
years.
a
I agree.
he
I
is a
love Peyton,
system
but Peyton was for his
QB.
last
Let's
2
be
years.
honest. And if you take Bill Belichick out of the equation, would he be the same quarterback with the same amount of rings, the same amount of accolades as he has now? That is the main question. And we're starting to see what the two of them look like without each other. That was only my point. Not that one's more important. I simply said that they are a symbiotic relationship. They need each other. Now we're seeing what happens when they don't have each other. And that's always been my point. And yes, Tom Brady is winning,
I will
but
say this:
he's not
we had
winning
that
the
argument
Tom
a
Brady
month
way.
ago. Actually, we had that argument a month ago. Say my favorite. I will only say it's been a month of time, and my man Tom ain't been looking that good. G.
Thank you.
I got him
my
on
man,
my fantasy
my man.
team.
That's because my man
I
is
got him on my
old.
fantasy team.
Thank you.
My man is old.
I got him on my fantasy team, and he ain't been looking that good.
Tom
I
is
said that 4 weeks.
AARP.
I said that like 4 weeks ago when it was a little different.
Tom is
like 4 weeks
AARP
ago.
for real.
Just say I said it like I will say this. He still got like about 8 weeks of football left in him, hopefully, or 6 weeks of football left in him, hopefully. Hopefully it ain't 2 more left. But I will say I did say that about 4 games ago, so I will give you credit for that. I will give you credit for that, Ashley.
Thank you.
It was about 4.
About
4 weeks ago.
I know a thing or two about football. What can I say?
I damn near might not
3 or
even been
4,
a daddy
right?
when we had. Actually,
couple
low-key, I
things.
might not even been a daddy when we had that argument. So give me a little. My bad.
Okay.
No, but I'm just messing with y'all. Thank y'all, man. I love both of you all. I respect you all. Obviously,
man,
I love both of y'all.
it's all
enough to be able to
good.
yell, scream at each other, of course. Thank you, Nick. I'm sure this episode will do numbers. I'm sure the comments have been going crazy. I'm sure they've called me or whatever because that's what y'all tune in for. But I appreciate it. Shout out to Tyronn Lue. Don't let me down, G. Don't let me down, bro. Do not let me down, G.
Right, for real. You are the baton waver.
I honestly don't think he's gonna let me
waver.
down, though. I really don't think he's gonna let me down. I think if their biggest problem was not having a guy that make adjustments, like I said, the reason why I will never give LeBron all the credit is because T. Lue made adjustments. But thank you, Nick and Ashley. I appreciate you both. Go ahead, tell the people where they can find you at.
You guys can follow me at Ash Nicole Moss on Instagram and on Twitter. And make sure you guys keep a lookout for all of my NBA content coming your way very, very soon. Matter in 2 weeks or so when the season kicks off. Of course, you can find it all on HNB Media TV YouTube channel, and of course my YouTube channel with All In with Ashley Nicole. And we have some really cool stuff that we're going to be working on. So make sure you tune in for that.
Yes, Nick, go ahead, talk to the people, let them know where they can find you at.
You can find me on all things social media at Nick Hamilton LA. You can catch me every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius XM, Slam Radio 145 for TMA with Nick Hamilton. You can also catch me on YouTube at NH Experience TV. Appreciate you having me on, bro. It's been fun, as we always do. Get into it, love each other.
Actually, the first episode we ever recorded together, that was the Dennis Rodman greater than Shaq, right?
Would you belong? Yeah, I think so.
We argued that episode was like 3 hours and 43 minutes long, and we were
I did not
screaming at each
realize
other
that,
for
bro.
3 hours. Yeah, because remember we talked about that first, and then we talked about Kaepernick for like an hour and 45 minutes afterward.
Right.
That was one of our longest episodes. So thank you as always, Nick. I appreciate you for joining me. All righty. Shout out to the fans. Appreciate you guys. Shout out to Ashley and Nick as always. Thank you all for tuning in to the new show in LA. The new show in LA. I hope these guys don't let me down. I had a PG bobblehead after they lost. I'm not gonna lie, accidentally on purpose knocked it off my desk and it failed and it shattered into pieces. So hopefully one day these guys can earn their respect and be able to get on this wall of greatness. But I do think this year actually Kawhi Leonard is gonna be my sleeper for MVP. I think Tyronn Lue will put both of them, which was really my whole original point of all this. We'll put Kawhi and PG in a similar situation as to which he put, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving in terms of the isolations, the pick and rolls, the being able to have shooters on the wings and get those shooters open and being able to allow those guys to do a lot more of drive and kick versus what they were doing a lot last year, which was more of like pin downs and coming off of screens trying to get the ball for Kawhi in mid-range and for PG for three-point shots. So I do think that this team will be a completely different team. I think that this coaching staff is actually a great coaching staff. I really, really like Kenny Atkinson. I really, really like Chauncey Billups. And I really, really like Tyronn Lue, man. Tyronn Lue, even last year, was a guy that when I went to Clippers practices, I saw him all the time laughing, joking, and cursing with all of the players. And that, to me, is the chemistry that you need for a good relationship. I think Doc is a guy where they're, where everything just fell on deaf ears with him and they didn't want to hear from him anymore, hear his raspy voice. But this has been your boy TPJ. I will get back to you sometime soon with the new show in LA. We're going to let Ashley cover some of these Clippers media press conferences so that way she can hear them talk this craziness. So that way I ain't the only one on here trying to defend these crazy men and coaches. But until next time, I definitely appreciate you. Once again, shout out to Nick Hamilton. Shout out to Miss Ashley Nicole. Please also make sure you go subscribe to Ashley Nicole's YouTube channel, Ashley Nicole All In, as well as subscribe to our podcast. Me and Ashley and Daniel Belts and Chris Kidd have a podcast called Just a Few Friends. We don't yell and scream and curse like we do on here. We do curse, but we talk about a lot of other stuff. So shout out to y'all. Thank you guys. Much appreciated. It's been a new show in LA. Been your boy TPJ. Peace out.